Welcome to Larry's Library and welcome to another Sunday scan. And today I read ElfQuest issue 4. This one right here. So we have another fabulous cover by Wendy Pini. And it has an 85 date on it too. So this is another one that she made for this reprinting of the original independent series. And on the cover you can see Rayek having some kind of contest with Cutter. They're both blindfolded. And you can see Lita looking on behind them. So we're going to get right into the love triangle part of this story. Now before I start going through the pages in this, I'm going to flip to the letters page where I think this is the first issue they had the letters page in. And it's 2 pages long. A lot of cool stuff in here. And we find out more about the nuts and bolts of what it took to go from its original form as an indie book to now being published and colored for the first time by Epic. So I'm going to read part of this letter here because it's very telling. Guy wrote in and he's talking about the difference between the warp editions and this one. And he's asking questions about that and their answer. And it looks like Richard Pini of the team, the husband of the team, who is doing a lot of the writing and editing, he seems to be answering all the letters here because it all has RP, as the tagline here. And he says, when Warp Graphics first published ElfQuest, these many years ago, we put 32 pages into each issue. Epic Comics average about 22 pages, as any mainstream comic book did for many years, and I think they still are at 22 to 23 pages, which would mean splitting the original story in odd and awkward places. Wendy does new pages of art and story to bridge these gaps and provide continuity, as well as providing new glimpses into what's going on. So that is pretty cool. So we can see that, and this might help explain how they had that page order discrepancy happen, because they had to rework this to get the narrative to flow in the different page count for all these volumes. But it's cool that she did additional art and bridging sequences to make it all work. Which makes me wonder, what are the differences between the way these stories flow in the collected editions that Dark Horse did later, as compared to these Epic single-issue comics? I don't know. It's kind of a fascinating thing to think about. That they're all probably slightly different narratives to make that work. Anyway, getting back to the story at hand, and the opening page. More just breathtaking art here by Wendy Pini, and she pencils and inks her own stuff. And that's what's really impressive here is the ink work on this opening page. The Challenge is the name of this story. I mean, look how delicate but yet detailed and ornate the art is here. This is breathtaking. I'm blown away. But you can see Cutter's band. Cutter here talking to the, what was her name? Not Sun Toucher. Okay, yeah, and you can see Cutter and his band talking to the Mother of Memory, who is one of the elders of the new tribe that they found of elves. And we do find out, we get a name for these tribes, for this tribe finally. They are known as the Sun Folk. So that's pretty cool, that we finally have something to call them other than that other tribe. And the Mother of Memory who they're talking to here, like I said, she's an elder, probably the eldest one, I think, in this village, in this tribe called the Sun Folk. And she is noticeably taller than all of Cutter's band, and of really, I think, any of the elves among the Sun Folk. She seems to be tallest. So maybe that's part of the lore here, and I assume we will learn more as we go on. It's only issue 4 of like 32. But it looks like in the Wendy and Richard Pini version of elves, they must get taller as they grow older, even past adulthood. They continue to, maybe, I don't know. That's kind of the impression I get here. I could be wrong. But she explains to him that elves are of one heart and one mind, no matter the circumstances which shape their behavior or their bodies. And I will scan page 2 also. Another beautiful, beautiful page. And they are all just taken aback by her beauty. And they're like, have you never seen an aged elf before? And she points to their band and she says, well, even the oldest of your band is but a stripling. She says, but a stripling. Love that. And the older guy in their band, I can't think of his name, but he's sort of like, well, because he's used to being the oldest, and she's calling him a stripling. I will also scan page 3, and that's where that exchange happens. And she says, and you, why do they call you Cutter? A fine name for a fighting cockerel. I had never heard of the word cockerel, so I had to look that one up. Apparently that's where the term cock comes from, to mean a male chicken, or a young male chicken in the case of cockerel. And she says, dear me, there is even a crest here to complete the image. And she puts her hand on his head and ruffles that little bit of hair back there he's got in a ponytail, which I've always taken that look, his haircut with the ponytail and kind of long hair here. To me, I always think of The Witcher, because that is how The Witcher's depicted both in the Netflix show and in the video games, or the computer games and all that. And that same hairstyle shows up in a lot of other video games and for fantasy characters and whatnot. But to me, I always think of The Witcher when I see that. And you can see this is long before The Witcher games. The Witcher books are as old as this, probably older than 85 for sure. They go back to the 70s, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So I don't know how his hair was depicted in the prose, but this, of course, predates the Witcher games and the Witcher TV series. But Cutter's hair is very similar in a lot of ways. She explains to him, they talk about the humans, how the humans are savage, and she says, well, there's nothing to fear here, there's no humans here. And I will scan this page, this full page, where they're dancing and celebrating and just having fun, listening to music and dancing in the Sun Folks village. And they're playing flutes and stuff. And man, the artwork here is just gorgeous. The ink work, man, Wendy Pini is a masterful artist, and she is probably, I don't know, she might be a better inker than she is a penciler. I've never seen her ink anyone else's pencils, so that would kind of be the actual deciding factor there, is whether she's a better inker than a penciler. I don't know, because I've only seen her ink her own work here, but it is beautiful. And then we got more of the rivalry between Rayek and Cutter over Lita, mostly. And I'll scan this page too. It shows how the wolves are adapting to their new environment. They're shedding their thick fur because now they're in a much warmer climate. But they're happy to have more food. It's kind of the takeaway there. So this issue mainly deals with Rayek versus Cutter for Lita's affections. And we get to see on this page, I will scan it as well, where we see how Rayek hunts. He's the great hunter of this tribe of the Sun Folk. And he uses his powers. He has these very Jedi-like mind powers. And he actually sneaks up on a boar here and uses his eye thing and makes the boar freeze. And then we even see him use telekinesis here. He raises the boar up, seemingly with the force, that kind of thing, and kills the boar. A little bit kind of graphic, I guess, but I will scan that page also. And Cutter kind of admonishes him and says, that's not very sporting of you to render your prey like that. And then Rayek says, well, this is more humane. The boar suffered less by not having to fight me than, so they're kind of at a stalemate on that argument. And then I'll scan this page. This is in the middle of the book here. Cutter is trying to woo Lita. He's talking to her at her hut, I guess. And Rayek comes up and smacks Cutter away and throws down the gauntlet, almost literally here. It's a challenge wand. He tosses down. It sticks in the ground like a dagger. And, of course, Cutter doesn't know what the hell that is, so he takes it to the Mother of Memory, and these other people of the tribe gather around, and she explains what this means. But basically, now they're going to have to engage in all these contests to decide who Lita gets to pick for her life mate. But now Lita doesn't have to pick either one of them, and she's just like caught in between, and she's not happy about the situation, I don't think. But I'll scan that page and the next two. Just more gorgeous art here. Just beautiful. And so they have to go through this trial and a series of tests. They're blindfolded. You know, they have to, let's see, what is it? Strength, wits, and courage. So there's a trial of strength, a trial of wits, and then there's a trial of courage. The trial of strength involves hand, eye coordination, balance, and agility, and that's what we see on the cover image. That's the first test. And Cutter wins, naturally. Oh, and Rayek is barred from using his magical powers during these. It has to be just their natural abilities, which is kind of weird because the magic powers are his natural ability, right? So, I don't know. I think it's kind of not cool to say Rayek can't use powers that came to him naturally, but okay. Cutter wins that first round. And then I'll scan this page. Cutter is forced to give up his blade, his sword. And he does not like that at all because he says, not New Moon, not my father's sword. So now we know that his sword is called New Moon. That's pretty cool. And it belonged to his father. But the Mother of Memory explains, you know, hey, in this next trial, your weapons are taken away and hidden in the mountains. And you have to find them and bring them back. And that is the challenge of, what's that one called? I guess that, yeah, that's wits. So that's the challenge of wits. So both Rayek and Cutter are blindfolded and bound. Their hands are bound behind them. And they're taken up in the mountains, in the caves in the mountains, and they're left there at 2 different points, I think. Yeah. And they both have to find their weapons. So Rayek and Cutter are both, they have to return by a certain amount of time with their retrieved weapons that they found. And whoever manages to do that, I guess it's a race. I don't know, it's unclear because it ends before the conclusion of this one. This issue ends. So that's pretty cool. Enjoyed that quite a bit. And I think, if anything, the art is getting even better. Just better and better as it goes along. So it's going to be cool to see. Presumably in issue 5, we'll see the conclusion of that trial and then on to the last trial. And like I said, Lita still doesn't have to pick either one of them. And she's like, I'm not bound by this. You guys can have this fight if you want, but I can free to choose who I want to choose. So we'll see how that plays out. So if you want to see more of that, definitely come back in 2 weeks for that. Next week, I will start a new series. I have yet to determine. Something out of my unread bin over there, because I like to switch these out every week. So next week will not be ElfQuest 5. It'll be the new title I haven't decided on yet. And then after that, in 2 weeks, come back for ElfQuest 5 if you want to see more from this great series. So, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed that. Give me a thumbs up if you did. Give me a like. And I'll see you next time.